If I'm not mistaken, he's still camping out in Newfoundland up in Canada. None other than Osiris, or on a bad day, Kongo Kong. How's it going, dude?
Hey, not too bad. I have not a complaint in the world, man.
So, what you doing up there in Newfoundland?
We're doing the week-long 5th anniversary tour featuring Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, rock on! What's that all about?
We toured the island of Newfoundland pretty much, and have several shows, wrestling shows all over the island of Newfoundland. There's not much as far as wrestling goes, and the Fed rarely ventures here, so the promoter here of Legend City Wrestling kind of is capitalizing on a good situation, and it's really turning into something cool.
So are you Osiris or are you Kongo?
I am Kongo Kong.
Oh, poor fans. We had the pleasure, Zane and myself. Zane Paisley's on here, the Morning Star. Will Huckabee, a wrestler as well, Kongo, with us as well. Zane and I had the pleasure of meeting you at Heroes and Legends #3. Got to see you in action. And boy, I tell you what, if you've not seen this gentleman wrestle, the enthusiasm he brings, the intensity that the man brings, that was my first time seeing him. Zane, you've seen him in the Osiris personality as well, correct?
Yes.
So you bring it. We're waiting for the biggies to sign you.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So we're waiting for the big feds to sign you now.
You know, me too. I've been waiting for about 15 years, and hopefully they don't miss out too much longer, because time is winding down. I'm not as young as I used to be, but I can still go when I need to.
So answer this: you were very successful with Osiris. What made you decide to split off and do a Kongo Kong at this stage?
Honestly, I didn't. I showed up to a JCW show thinking, okay, cool, they're going to use Osiris. And I'd heard through the grapevine that they wanted me to paint my face. So I get there and we're having the pre-show meeting, and Corporal Robinson looks over at me and he goes, yeah, and Kongo Kong is going to come in and interfere, and we're going to throw the match out. And I'm looking at him like, who's Kongo Kong? So I look around the room. I'm like, oh, nobody's fitting that gimmick. He's like, oh, by the way, your new name is Kongo Kong. I was like, oh, shit.
You can say that.
I didn't want to be a stereotypical savage gimmick, so.
You didn't want to be the reincarnation of Kamala?
Hell no. Like he and I don't mean any harm when I say this, but he misrepresented us, and it's one of those situations where it seems like every time you see a black person on wrestling, on WWE, or really any show on TV, the gimmick is like a stereotypical type. Either he's a savage and he's dumb, or he dances and he raps,
Right.
and I needed something different. I had to do something different. So I was like, well, Ultimate Warrior was a savage. He's just an intelligent savage. I choose not to talk, as Kongo Kong, but I figure it's 2013, 14? 2014.
Yeah.
My days are all mixed up. Little sleep, lots of traveling.
You're on Canadian time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's 2014, and there should be internet in the jungle and such things, so that we're not all dumb, and should know how to wrestle, and not go around and I don't know. I just didn't want to be that stereotypical guy.
I'm going to kick it over to an independent wrestler down in the southeast portion of the United States, the Morning Star himself, Will Huckabee. What do you got for Osiris / Kongo Kong?
First of all, I have to compliment you. I'm from down south. When we say our big guys are cornbread and country fed. And for a guy your size, you move extremely, extremely well. Does that really surprise a lot of people when they actually see you or get in the ring with you for the first time?
Actually, it does. There's been a couple of times I've been in the ring with guys who, they felt like they've been around and they've done that, and like they try to call a minimal, amount of things to do during a match. And by the time we're done, they're like, "Oh, we should have called more." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's what you get for, underestimating people. You don't just look at a person and think, yeah, well, he's big and he probably doesn't do a whole lot of anything. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? You standing, I didn't hurt you. You're good."
Go ahead, Will. You're still up, buddy.
Yeah, not talking about myself. I'm 5'10", 280 pounds. So I'm a big, short guy. But you are a tall, huge guy. Do you feel with your agility and the way that you work and the way that you wrestle and stuff that you're redefining what a super heavyweight should be and should look like and should wrestle like?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. That question made me feel real good, man. I try, I try to go out there and I try to be me and I try to be different. Whether I'm Osiris or Kongo Kong, I try to be different from every other big man. And I remember one time, excuse me, Rosie, of the WWE Superhero in Training, he said to me, he's like, "You need to stop doing that top rope shit and you need to stay on the ground. Vince wants to see if you can stand and you can, and I said, "What, look like everybody else?" If I'm out there and I look like everybody else, just doing big boots and splashes and whatnot, what's going to set me apart? How would they know that I can do this extra stuff, so that, let's say if I were to get hired and let's say I did get over, come WrestleMania, I bust out a moonsault, you know what I'm saying? In the match, why would I not do that so that they know I can do it, And so just since then, I guess I just kind of had the attitude, I'm going to do me, everybody else can do them, but I'm not going to be the same thing as everyone else.
Let's kick over to the beard of knowledge himself, Zane Paisley. Zane.
Well, nice to talk with you. And I know that when you're not on the road, because you're on the road quite a bit now, you do some training at Body Slam University in Fort Wayne, correct?
Yeah, I do.
Where did you get trained? Did you get trained there or did you train elsewhere?
I was trained back in 1998 by a guy named Joe Ortega, who also went by El Tejano, up in Holland, Michigan.
And what brought you to Fort Wayne then? Well,
before I trained, I spent a year at Saginaw Valley State University playing football. I didn't like it there, so I decided to move back home. And then I ran into the wrestling school. Well, I'd run into my high school football coach a little while later and, ended up, getting a scholarship down to University of St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where I've been since 2000. And, so once I got done playing football and the itch was back, and well, it really never left. I just was able to suppress it, but it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I had to get back in the ring. I hooked up with Jason Maples, who at the time ran Extreme Wrestling Federation out of Marion, Indiana. And, he gave me a shot. He was the only one in the area that would give me a shot. I talked to Bruiser Jr. and a couple other groups, and they always had something crazy to say or something. But, Jason was like, "Hey, come on down. What could it hurt? We'll work on getting you some gear and, just getting you back to where you need to be." And, that was back in 2003, I believe. And here I am 10 years later. I'm still with the guy. He's one of my best friends. And, just, he's an all around great guy.
Well, and there's another guy in that area. He's a little heel, named, Top Rope Troy Miller. Have you ever gotten your hands on him? Cause he'd be like a toothpick to you, wouldn't he?
Honestly, I can't remember ever wrestling Troy in a one-on-one situation. We may have done some tags here or there. But yeah, it's never been a one-on-one situation, but honestly, he's like one of the coolest guys I've met, and he's always been very supportive of me. Always has, encouraging words no matter what the situation, and that he's a good guy. I don't care what his character is, but the man behind the character is A1.
Every time I've seen Troy, he's come up to me and given me a handshake. He's a real class guy.
Absolutely.
So last couple of years you've been traveling all around the Midwest and up in Canada, and a lot of that is you've been getting over in Juggalo Championship Wrestling. What have your experiences? What are some of the crazier experiences that you've experienced with the Insane Clown Posse and their Juggalo Championship Wrestling?
It would have to be the gathering and just going and seeing that many people, that many gimmicks, that many characters in one place. At times there were 10,000 people all sitting in one place, and every one of them could have been on a wrestling card with the characters that they seem to have. It was crazy. You saw everything from topless fat chicks to guys with bloody tampons hanging out of their orifices and whatnot. And it was, definitely something that I would say if you ever get the chance to experience. I wouldn't say that you should pay for it, but if you're unless you're into that sort of thing, if you're a juggalo, and you've never been to a gathering, go. But if you're not, and then you want to have a good laugh and a good, what the hell moment for like a week, then go.
I think JCW is coming to Kokomo, Zane. I don't know if they've been or not.
It was a few weeks ago, and I had a prior engagement that night.
Steve, my question to you is: you were talking about the transformation of Kongo Kong and how you really weren't too thrilled with the idea. What made you decide to keep it, though? Did you get over so much that you just thought, you know what, maybe I can make this and tweak it to where it's more of my own personality?
Yeah. First it started with JCW, and then, a couple places would use it here and there. And I'd actually did a gimmick previous to Kongo Kong called Shamari. So I guess Kongo was an evolution of Shamari. And once I guess the right people started seeing it, and I realized, hey, you can make a little bit of money, doing this gimmick. Obviously it's not something that is, an easy task. I can't just go throw on a pair of tights and be ready to go. It takes some time to get prepared.
Right.
It's money to buy all that paint, and then I have to constantly keep my hair straight and, throw it out, and it's a lot. But, once I figured out that I can make more money doing Kong, and get more places apparently doing Kong, then, it became easy math, You go with what's going to get you there, what's going to, get you to where you need to be.
Let's play hypothetical for just a moment, if you don't mind. Let's say Vince and company, Triple H and company came calling and said, Steve, we want you in the WWE. We love Kongo Kong. We want you. But we want you to be the reincarnation of Kamala. Would you go?
I would ask them, how much does it pay? In the end, my goal in life is to make money and make a living off of wrestling. And I want to be able to buy my mom a house. I want to build her a house, and then build myself a house and, live comfortably. Like I feel like I've worked hard enough that, it's probably time that I can enjoy some stuff, or, like I didn't fold, didn't throw down my hand or anything. I stuck with it, and I kept at it, and finally things seem to be at a point where they're working out. And right now the bottom line, I guess, is wrestling and making money.
What about, I guess, let's throw this devil's advocate thing into you. Let me be, what was his name? I'm forgetting his name now. Who's the devil's advocate, Zane? All right, thanks, Zane.
I can't remember. He went from WCW to WWF.
Yes, it wasn't Jindrak. It wasn't Palumbo. It was oh well, hell. Anyway, to be devil's advocate, you were saying, and I understand completely what you're saying, that the stereotypical African American thing. I guess if people keep accepting Vince's money, will it ever go away?
Probably not. But I mean, I guess if at the end of the day, people know what I've done before Vince got a hold of me, then they know what type of man I am. And it's out there in cyberspace now. There's been articles about it, and all that. People know that what type of individual I am, and whether or not Vince would choose to misuse me, or however. I guess as long as he was using me, $500,000 later at the very minimum, I'm over it.
Yes, thank you, Zane. Sean O'Hare was the name of that. Thank you, Zane. Let's kick it back over to the Morning Star, Will Huckabee. He can ask some little bit more technical wrestling questions for you, since he is a wrestler as well.
Listen, why you gotta put all the pressure on me, man?
That's why you are brought to the big game, Will Huckabee.
Well, I was gonna ask this because as a fellow, how do you be politically correct? I'm just gonna be myself as a fellow black wrestler. And I haven't been doing this nowhere near as long as you have, unfortunately. Do you find yourself at times going to these shows and looking at a lot of these younger black wrestlers and pulling them to the side and trying to hit them to game and let them know that they don't have to always be either Tupac or Ice Cube or Carlton Banks as a gimmick to get over?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like, the way I always approach it is, what do you have that's different? What do you have that is not already on that card? What do you have that nobody's seen before? Do something different. You want to get noticed? Sure, maybe you don't have the size, maybe you don't have the athletic ability, maybe you're not the greatest wrestler in the world, but if you want to get noticed, come up with a character, something that's not going to be, typical or found in a. Sorry, I was drinking a beer. Yeah,
it's okay.
And hold on. It only counts. What kind of beer are you drinking?
Some Canadian beer, Alexander Keith.
Yeah. Okay.
No, not at all. Not bad at all. If you ever get a chance to come up here, trust me, you'll want to try the Canadian beer. Everywhere I go, I try to sample something local. And I'm not.
So you're not hooked on Labatt's, huh?
No, not at all. I wouldn't drink that when I was in the States.
Isn't that the Canadian version of PBR?
Yes.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's that low level stuff. And don't get me wrong.
Continue, Will. We digress.
I'm so sorry. This interview is going so wrong. It's like yeah, we're talking beer.
Hey, you know what? It's cool. Hey, conversation amongst the boys. I'm down with that.
Right on.
Oh, okay. Here's my next question. As a black wrestler, and I've done it. Like I said, I've been doing this for about 7.5, almost 8 years. When did you ever develop that chip on your shoulder? Because we're both wrestlers. We're both black and stuff. So we both, and I like to think that I'm pretty awesome too. I'm pretty good at what I do. When did you develop that chip on your shoulder when you start realizing I'm better than what they're giving me? And what did you do?
Let's see. Like, I guess when I first came back, I spent a couple years, just staying at Extreme Wrestling Federation, because they ran weekly and it was easy. And a lot of the times, because it was weekly, guys who were just looking for a place to wrestle would just pop in. And because of that, I got to wrestle quite a few quality wrestlers, and I learned a lot from them. And then once I got to that point where I was pretty comfortable, I was able to leave the nest, so to speak, and branch out. And that was when I started getting out, and I started realizing, man, I'm pretty doggone good at what I do, and it's funny because when
that's what you're here for. Toot it.
Yeah, it's funny because when I say that, like, I try not to come off as cocky or arrogant or anything like that, but it's like you said, like Arn Anderson said, sometimes you got to toot your own horn,
That's right.
toot. But you get to a point and you watch everybody else, you see what they have to offer, and you see if you have it within you to come up with different, something like I keep going back to different. And I feel like I'm that different guy, and I do stuff differently. I'm not just a big meathead, who goes around and slams people or whatever. I try to not only keep people entertained with my moves, but with character. Character and entertainment, is a big part of wrestling.
Let's shift it over to the beard of knowledge himself, the Wonder Beard, Zane Paisley.
Well, Kongo, you were on the hardcore road trip up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I can talk about it.
Well, what was the atmosphere like? How did you get back to the States, and what was the atmosphere like when you knew that the promoter had left the building?
Fortunately I drove, so it wasn't a big deal. I had taken extra money like I most times do, just in case, you go on a long road trip, you don't want to be stuck somewhere broke. You always have to have a way out. And things were cool. I picked up Christian York in Detroit on the way there, and that for me, that was like the start of the awkwardness, or weird feelings I was getting, because he was having wrestlers pick up other wrestlers from Detroit or from airports on their way in, instead of having rides arranged for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get there, and I was a little late. There were 2 shows. I was on first, and so I go out and I do my thing, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe the promoter come up and say hi. And I didn't see him. And so that show ended, and we hung around, and I was like, has anybody seen the promoter? And everybody's like, no, he's around here somewhere, blah, blah, blah. So, then the second show happens, and I have my match, and, I decided that I was going to just relax on the floor and wait and see what happens after the match. And, still there's no promoter. And so
now, what do you mean by relax on the floor? Is this out in front of the crowd or back in the locker rooms?
In the locker room. Like the locker room, the place was a big hall, I guess. And our locker room was like actually in a dining area or a dining room, something like that. So I was laying on the carpet, and just basically waiting for the show to end so I can get paid and go home or whatever. But the locker room atmosphere is what made me not completely hate that day, because everybody in there was cool. Nobody had any chips on their shoulders. Everybody seemed to work together. There were no egos. It was just an awesome situation. It sucked by having, a promoter leave like that. And so anyway, I started asking around, like, hey, has anybody seen the promoter? This is starting to bug me. Like, usually I would have met him by now. And people were starting to catch on, and they were starting to look too. And then next thing we hear is, oh yeah, Mark was having a heart attack and he left. And everybody knew then and there that we were screwed. So, we went out, and the main event was up at that point. And it was, Masada versus Jesse Amato, and, they were out there pretty much killing each other. As you guys probably well know, Jesse had skewers sticking out of his head, and I know he had gone through a table off of balcony earlier that day. God only knows what else happened in that match, because I have a hard time watching those matches. But they stopped the show and, let everybody know what was going on. And there were a lot of fans that actually helped out and helped people get back to where they needed to be. And I thought that was really good of them, really awesome of them. Just, I don't know. We were ready to kill him, but at the same time, being that far away from home and you're in a different country, your hands are kind of tied. I can't, go find this guy and fucking kill him and hide him in a junkyard somewhere. Not that I'd ever do that. Let me just put that out there. Not that I'd ever do that, in Canada, I guess.
So somewhere local, it would have been better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because a similar situation happened the next week, and that guy, he didn't run because I told him beforehand. I said, listen, you better have my money, or
you were at the Extreme Rising show also?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a little smaller show in Indiana. But yeah, like people going to his house, and then we figured out that he was using an alias. His name wasn't Mark Livingston. It was Mark Anderson. Then we found out that he had done that before to people, where he'd book a show and he'd get people flights in or whatever, and then take off with the money. And honestly, with all his pre-sale, I think what he did was he spent all the money and he didn't get what he thought he was going to get at the door, and he probably panicked. I'm not making an excuse for him, but sometimes we get into situations and we have these gigantic dumbass attacks, and I'm thinking that's what it was. And so, he split, and he's like, I'd rather do this and have a bad name as opposed to get my ass kicked by a bunch of wrestlers, whereas 9 times out of 10, if you talk to a wrestler, they understand, hey, you don't have all my money, give me some of it, and hopefully you can settle up, with me later.
Well, I kind of had a curiosity about something. Have you met the bronzed god Lennox Norris by chance?
Yeah, I have. I've met him a couple times. Met him when he was the Indian, and then I also ran into him, I would say in May, down in Tennessee for the Viscera tribute show.
We had him on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about racism kind of in wrestling, and does it still exist? And he was giving us some pretty graphic examples that it still does. Have you come across that either by the promoter themselves not giving you particular jobs, or by fans, or have you encountered it, I guess?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any particular instances, like up here, and I'll say it, like, we joke around, we play, and I believe, all the boys, they respect the line. There's a line that you just don't cross, but sometimes they push that line, you know what I mean? And it's a playful thing, and I understand, because I play back, hey, you want to talk about me being black and liking sweet potato pie? I got some for you too. But there's there's been times where I questioned promoters, doings and judgments and whatnot, but I can't say there's been an outright situation where I've just felt like, okay, this is a bad situation because I'm a black man. A lot of times, if that was the case, then they either don't book me or they stop booking me.
Which was my next point to you. You just said to me nobody would touch you in Indiana except for Jason Maples. Why is that? I mean, you were a talented big guy.
At that point, nobody.
Do you think that had any play on it?
No, I think at that point nobody knew me, and they probably figured I was a yarder. And if you don't have any experience, or if you have limited experience, they tend to frown on that. Or if you don't have wrestling boots or gear right away, they frown on it, instead of saying, hey, cool, we can help you. Come train with us. Come do this. Come do that. Help us out and we'll help you out. I don't know. Sorry, I just drew a blank.
Okay. Heroes and Legends 4 is coming up in Fort Wayne here in the next couple months in August. Do you have a match yet? Or are you going to be there?
September 13th, actually.
Oh, is it September?
Yeah. Originally it's supposed to be Kong versus the War Machine Rhino, but the War Machine Rhino decided that he was going to take the Newfoundland tour booking, which I was offered, but I was like, well, I'd already accepted the September booking for Heroes and Legends, so I'm just going to stick with that.
So Rhino's not going to be at Heroes and Legends?
Yeah, so he's been replaced by Gangrel, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to that match too.
Very cool. I thought Rhino was still going to be there along with Gangrel, but hey, that lineup for H&L4 has proven to be the best yet. I mean, who all do we got on there? We got Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff's going to be there. Kevin Sullivan's going to be there. Oh my goodness,
Tommy Dreamer,
DWO, the blue meanie's going to be there. Yep. Stevie Richards is going to be there. I mean, they've just got a booked lineup. Maples is really outdoing himself.
Oh yeah, he's very, very smart about it too.
Of course, we can't forget, or else I'll hear about it. We can't forget about the Heroes and Legends champion, Drew Skills. Better mention his name.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah,
that guy. That's right.
That's my oos, as he likes to say.
Will Huckabee, what's your next question for Osiris?
I was just about to ask him, like, does he have a problem with Drew skills? But I say that's a match I would probably, as a wrestler, pay to see, or like convince somebody to book that match.
No, man. Like when I first met Drew came off kind of rough like sandpaper, I guess. You know, he was Heartland Wrestling Association, Les Thatcher trained, and he felt like he knew everything. And you know, and I always joke with him about it. You know, about how we didn't like each other, and about how we wrestled each other one time, and the finish was a choke slam, and I choke slammed him, and he jumped like 2 inches, and I kind of looked down and shrugged my shoulders, like, "Well, it's your death." And later, I guess I found out that he wasn't sandbagging me. He just has a fear of heights.
Oh, wow.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
It's like, no, I didn't sandbag you. No, I just don't want to jump that high because, you know,
Hey,
6'4" is too much for me.
that's his story. He's sticking to it. You know, we're over that situation, that section of our lives. So, you know, we've grown a little bit, and it's a good situation now. So
Okay, here's a question I gotta ask. And I don't know if this is appropriate or not. As a big guy, you know, you wear trunks to the ring. The matches that I've seen you in, you were wearing trunks. Do you just feel, is that part of your gimmick, or is it just something you feel very comfortable in? Cause, like I said, I'm a fat kid also, and, everybody down south told me I need to stick to a singlet.
Whoa. What are you trying to say, Will?
I'm saying that I'm a big guy also. The only thing is I'm not 6'6".
That's not what you said, Will.
I'm asking him how, as far as, personally for him, is he very comfortable wearing trunks? Or did he have to be pressured into wearing them?
Actually, it was a little bit of both. I'd started off in singlets, and the lady I was going to get my singlets made, she would never fit them right, and they'd always be baggy, and I hated that. Like, singlets should be tight. It's spandex, for crying out loud. And then I would switch, you know, what I did was I bought a sewing machine, and I taught myself how to sew. So I went from wearing singlets to wearing like loose shorts and a top. And then, I'd run into a guy by the name of Vito Tomaselli, and he said, hey, he was booking, for Elite Pro Wrestling, which was running up in Chicago at the time.
I know Vito.
Yeah. He said, hey, I would have a spot for you on my show if you would consider wearing trunks. And I looked at him like, are you kidding me right now? And he said, no, not at all. And he said, the trunks, I believe, would make you look longer, make you look taller, you know, and it would show your real size. And he's like, everybody knows you're a big guy, so why hide? And so once he said that, it made sense. So then I tried to make my first pair of trunks, and I started doing the Shamari gimmick, and so I figured, hey, I'll put a loincloth over it and see how it goes. And, you know, once I did it, and I was over the initial shyness, and I'm like, well, they booed me like they always do. You know, I got back to the back, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever be wearing a singlet again. And I didn't, because it was so freeing. So much air, you know, so much movement. It was just great.
Now, here's another question. Will we ever see Kongo and Osiris, on the same show, almost like a Mick Foley and Cactus Jack?
That actually has been talked about for Heroes and Legends, believe it or not.
Really?
It was talked about.
Exclusive, Will Huckabee.
Once again.
It was talked about this past show, and we ended up not going with it, but we had Men on a Mission booked with Mabel, Mo, and Oscar.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, a couple weeks before we had the show, Viscera passed away. And, you know, Jason was left with the question of, what do I do? And it was brought up to him that I be the Men on a Mission guy to take Viscera's place, as Osiris. And then I would come out and wrestle later as Kong. But it ended up not happening, which, you know, it was a great thought, but, you know, for the better, I think. You know, but who knows? you never know. Twice the payday, right?
That's right. Let's kick it back over to ZP.
Well, we've talked a little about gear, and do you want to talk about the gear that you make, the Juggernaut by Osiris gear?
Juggernaut gear by Osiris.
Oh, I'm sorry,
yes.
Juggernaut gear by Osiris.
I am the wrestling fashion Zulu or guru, whatever that
is. No, we don't want to have any racial stereotypical things. So you're calling yourself the Zulu, huh?
Right. But no, I started in 2007, and I believe my gear has gotten progressively better over the years. I keep a lot of customers, and sometimes I'll cycle through customers because people are always curious as to what the next guy can do, and that's perfectly fine. But the complaints are minimal, and usually as long as it's something that I can fix, if something that is my fault, I would fix if there were, a problem, but I don't have very many problems with my gear. And, I don't know, it's helped me out tremendously, as far as being supplemental income. Doesn't help as far as having a social life between wrestling and having a real job and then making gear on the side. But hopefully one day the wrestling, and the gear will be enough, and you never know, see where things go from there.
Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, if he's making gear, I'm going to go ahead and put in the plug of, I'm going to need a sample singlet or something, so I can come on the show if it's good enough and go ahead and put it over for our fans.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go on my Facebook page and you can look in the Juggernaut Gear by Osiris section. There's 3 albums of gear there. And you can look for yourself and decide, is it that good? I mean, I think it's great. People around Indiana think it's great. People honestly around the world think it's great. I do have some international customers. So, yeah.
Have you ever met the Big Crush Barrington Hughes by chance out of Florida?
I've not met him, but we are internet buddies. We do talk.
He does the same thing. He creates his jerseys and wrestling gear as well. He's got a company.
He designs a lot of them. Yeah. I don't know if he's actually gotten into the actual making of gear, but he definitely designs a lot of them.
He designs.
The Big Crush tights or trunks that he wears now were done by me.
Oh, awesome.
Those, and then also the ones with the ace symbol on them are also done by me.
Hey, Zane Paisley, would that be a hell of a tag team with Kongo Kong teaming with Big Crush Barrington Hughes?
That would be crazy. That'd be a special attraction by far.
Go ahead, Zane. You got the next question, bud.
Well, we've got a mutual friend that told me to ask you your thoughts on C.W. Anderson, and I have no idea what your thoughts on C.W. Anderson, so I'm not trying to set you up. I was just asked to ask you about C.W. Anderson.
That's awesome. You didn't set me up. Whoever your friend was set me up. Because
well, I'm not going to reveal the source because you don't live too far away from us. I don't want you to if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I really have no idea what it's about.
It's fine. I have this little thing called a fuck list. And it's just for different individuals who have rubbed me the wrong way over the years. And C.W. Anderson was one of those guys I was really looking forward to working. He was the first quote unquote name. I use that term loosely, that I was wrestling, and he decided that he's going to take liberties on me, and kick me as hard as he could. And then when it came time for me to do something to him, protect me. I have a tryout, on SmackDown, which it never amounted to anything. But yeah, he's on my fuck list. Fuck CW Anderson,
Wow. I'm not gonna say it because CW lives like the next town over from me.
Right.
and he's such a good friend of mine.
You have to ask him what in the world he was doing to Kongo. Didn't he realize how big he was?
I'm gonna ask him, if you don't mind, Kongo. I'm gonna ask him, like, hey, you ever work with this guy, Kongo Crush? Kongo Kong. I'm sorry, I was thinking about Barrington for some reason. But you ever with this dude, Kongo Kong? What'd you do to him?
Osiris that he worked me under.
Osiris?
Yeah, Kong would have put up with that shit. Kong would have beat his ass.
Kongo.
How long ago was that?
I'd probably say 6 or 7 years ago, maybe.
Oh yeah, I've heard stories.
I was
Yeah.
still pretty green around the ears or whatever. I think he had just got done with ECW or it folded or whatever, and he was still kind of known or hot or whatever. And we brought him in, and I got to work him because I was champ at the time. And yeah, he just found every way to be a dick to me that night. Like, he even wanted me to finish the match with a body slam and a leg drop. Like, I felt like me right there, and I was like, okay, well, hey, whatever. Again, your funeral.
I will say I've heard stories about him back in the day, but and not taking up for him. He really is a lot nicer nowadays. I promise you. But I might ask him. I'm like, hey, you know, do the Osiris like 6-7 years ago? Yeah, 400 pounds.
Marion, Indiana. Yeah.
Marion. Okay.
So when you were younger, I guess, who did you look at as inspiration or role models as a younger guy before you got into the wrestling business? I guess when I look at you, I see so much of Ernie the Big Cat Ladd, but I don't know who you looked up to.
I never really got to watch Ernie Ladd wrestle too much. I came around when like Vader, Akeem, Bam Bam Bigelow, Big Boss Man, all those guys were around. Did I say Vader? Vader probably be like my biggest influence, I guess. When I saw that he could do a moonsault, I was like, yeah, I'm doing a moonsault. And when I saw, you know, he would kill people, I'd be like, yeah, I'm killing people.
Well, you get time to look on YouTube. Ernie Ladd is a big guy, very agile, former football player, just very, very reminiscent to me that your styles are. And that's a compliment because he was one of the all-time greats.
You know, and I've heard that before, and I think that's incredible. I like that. That's yeah, like anytime somebody compares me to somebody who was of any kind of stature, you know, that's nothing but a compliment.
Well, before we let you go for the night, I guess tell everybody what you've got going on coming up. Any websites or any Twitter accounts or anything like that you want to plug, or you know, how can people keep in touch with Osiris and Kongo Kong?
Well, if you go on Facebook and you type in Osiris or you type in Kongo Kong, you'll see a picture of me as Kong as of right now until I change it. And you could add me on there. Always looking to add people. You know, just send me a message. Let me know that you added me because of this show or whatever. You know, however you're a fan, whatever. If you're looking for gear, check out my gear pages. I do have an actual Juggernaut Gear by Osiris page, and then there's also albums in my photo section that you can check out and get with me about, you know, getting some gear and looking like a professional.